Good afternoon. Just letting you know you're being recorded, so don't say anything that you're going to regret. This is a traditional service. By traditional, I mean we don't start on time, because Jewish time is different than normal time. It was supposed to be at 2:30. Now that it's 2:34, we could start. We're going to start with a prayer for all of us. I'll say it for everybody, and then we're going to render our garment, and there's a special prayer. This is for the mourners, and then we'll start with the other part of the service. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher yatzar eschem badin v'zon v'chilkel eschem badin v'hemes eschem badin v'yedei mispra kulchem badin v'hu asad lachayesem ulekayim eschem badin Baruch atah Adonai mechaye hamesim. Blessed are you, Lord, our God, ruler of the universe, who fashioned you with justice, nourished and sustained you with justice, took your lives with justice, knows the sum total of you all in justice, and will restore and resuscitate you in justice. Blessed are you, Lord, who revives the dead. Atah gibor lo'olam Adonai mechaye mesim atah rav lo hishia. Mechalkel chayim bechesed mechaye mesim brachamim rabim. Somech noflim v'rofei cholim matira asurim. Umekayem emanosoi l'shenei yofor. Mi chamoicha bal gvuroi sumidei melach. Melech memes umechaye umatzmiach yeshua. V'neman atah lachayos meisim. You are eternally mighty, Lord. The reviver of dead are you. Abundantly to save, God sustains the living with kindness, revives the dead with abundance of compassion, supports the fallen, heals the sick, and revives the confined, and maintains faith for those asleep in the earth. Who is like you, master of mighty deeds, and who is comparable to you, the ruler who causes death and restores life and makes salvation sprout, and you're trustworthy to revive the dead. At this point, we're going to render our garment, and being that this is your for the daughters, this is your mother, you're going to cut on your left side over your heart, and for siblings, it's on your right side. I'll start it off. We'll say a prayer, and then you tear it. Try to tear 4 inches. You could do it. Come on. Put you to the test. So, if you don't mind standing for this. It's stuck in that chair. We'll say a prayer. Let's say the blessing. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam dayan ha'emet. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah, you're fine. Not much left. By not doing it often, you guys did a good job. Professional. I didn't see him help you. All right, we begin the service. We're going to say 3 Psalms. Psalm number 1. Ashrei ha'ish asher lo yhalach ba'atzas rishoyim, u'v'derech hatoyim lo yamod, u'v'moshev leitzim lo yashav, ki im b'seres Adonai cheptzoi, u'v'seroso yehege yomim v'loilo. V'hoyo ke'eit shasul al pal gemoyim, asher pirio yiten bi'itoi, va'aleho lo yiba v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach. Lo chen harishoyim, ki im kamoitz asher to defend ruach. Al kein lo yekumu rishoyim v'mishpat, v'chatoyim badas tzadikim, ki yedei Adonai derech tzadikim v'derech rishoyim tevet. I don't see anyone have any questions. I guess you all understood what I said, so I'll go to the next one. Psalm 15. Mizmor LeDavid. Adonai mi yoger bo elecha, mi yishkaim b'har kodechecha. Hoylech tomim ufoyal tzedek v'dever emes bilvavoi. Lei rogel al lishoinoi, lei osel l're'eu ra, v'cherpo le'nos al krevoi, nivzo be'einov nimas v'sira Adonai yichabed. Nishbar lahore lo yomer v'chaspo le'nosam b'neshech, v'sheichad al noki le'lokach, ois elu le'yimot le'olam. A song of David. Lord, who may sojourn in your tent, who may dwell in your holy mountains? one who walks in purity, does what is righteous, and speaks the truth from the heart, who has no slander on the tongue, nor has done harm to a fellow, nor casteth great towards a neighbor, in whose eyes a contemptible person is repulsive, but who honors those who are in awe of the Lord, who swears truthfully even to personal hurt, and never retracts, who does not lend money on interest, nor takes a bribe against the innocent. One who does these things shall never falter. And Psalm 23. Mizmor leDavid, Adonai ro'i lo yachzor, b'nozdesha yarbitzeni, amei menuchos yinahaleni. Nafshi yeshevev yancheni b'magle tzedek laman shemoi, gam ki yelech b'geit samoves, lo yiro ro ki ato imodi. Shiftecho meshantecho hemo yanachmuni, tarech lefonai shulchan neged tzoyroi, dishanto b'shem en roishi koisi ravoyo, ach toiva chesed yurdefuni kol yemei chayoi, b'shafti b'beis Adonai la'erech yomim. A song of David. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not lack. God causes me to lie down in lush pastures. God leads me beside tranquil water. God restores my soul and guides me in the righteous path of God's name's sake. Though I walk through the valley of shadow of death, I fear no evil, for you are with me. Your scepter and staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in full view of my adversaries. You have anointed my head with oil, my cup overflows. May only goodness and kindness pursue me all the days of my life, and I shall dwell in the house of the Lord for length of days. And when we do a service for a special woman, traditionally we read the last section of the book of Proverbs, the last chapter 31, known as Eishes Chayil, a woman of valor. Eishes Chayil mi yimtza v'rochik mipnine michra, but achbolev balo v'shalo lo yachsar, gimala asu v'toy v'lo ra kol yimei chayeha, darshat semer ufishtin v'taz v'chefetz kapeha. Hoysika ni yoysecher mimerchak tovi lachma, v'atokam ba'od laila, v'titin teref leveso v'chok l'nariseho. Zomamos sodevati kacheyu mipi chapeha notre chorem, chogra ba'oz masneho v'tamez zeroyoseho. Ta'amo kitov sachro, lo yichba b'layla neiro, Yodea shulchan bakisha v'chapeha tom chofolech. Kapa parseli yonev yodea shulchan le'evyoin, le'siro levesa mishalei ki chavesa lavushanim. Marvadim moses Allah, sheish v'argoman lavusha, noida b'sha'orim ba'lo b'shiftoi im ziknei oretz. Sodin osasav atimkor v'chagor nasna laknani, oiz v'hoda lavusha v'tischak liyem acharoin. Pia pascha b'chochma v'seres chesed al yishena, tzefia liches beisa v'lechem asos lo'isochel. Kamu v'neo v'yashrua ba'lo v'yhalala, Rabbeis b'onesos ochel v'atolis al kolono. Sheker ha'chein v'hevel ha'yefi, Isha yiras Adonai hitesalol, Tnula mipriyodeha v'yahalua b'shorim maseo. I'd like to ask Danielle to come up and translate all that gibberish that I just said. Hebrew, I mean.
A gallant woman who can find far beyond pearls is her worth. Her husband's heartfelt trust is in her, and he shall lack for nothing. She bestows good upon him, and never harm all the days of her life. She seeks out wool and linen, and her hands work willingly. She is like a merchant fleet, bringing her sustenance from afar. She arises while it is yet night, and gives provision to her household and direction to her maidens. She envisions a field and inquires it. From the fruit of her handiwork she plants a vineyard. With vigor she girds her loins and strengthens her arms. She discerns that her enterprise is good. Her lamp does not go out by night. Her hands she stretches out to the distaff, and her palms support the spindle. She spreads out her palm to the poor and extends her hands to the destitute. She fears not snow for her household, for her entire household is clothed with scarlet wool. Fine covers she made herself, linen and purple wool are her clothing. Prominent in the gates is her husband, as he sits with the elders of the land. She makes a cloak and sells it, and deals a belt to the peddler. Strength and splendor are her raiment, she carefully awaits the last day. Her mouth is opened with wisdom, and the teaching of kindness is on her tongue. She oversees the way of her household and partakes not of the bread of laziness. Her children arise and praise her, her husband and he lauds her. Many daughters have accomplished well, but you surpass them all. Grace is false, and beauty is vain, a woman in awe of God. She should be praised. Give her the fruits of her own hand, and let her deeds praise her in the gathering places.
We're here today to pay last respects and to eulogize a special woman, Andrea Davis, which it's not possible to put in a couple sentences and try to summarize her whole life, as well as, for most part, people make the mistake and believe that she passed on and life is over. But our tradition teaches us a little different, that life is just another chapter of where you have to go. And I'd like to give you a little insight on this and try to explain it and hopefully shed some light on a dark day like today. And hopefully we can all take a lesson and take it with us. The book of Ecclesiastes says, in Hebrew, Tov laleches lebeis ovel, milaleches lebeis mishta. It's better to go to a house of mourning than to go to a house of festivity. Better to go to a shiva house, go to a funeral, than to go to a wedding. And the reason, it tells us right afterwards in the verse, because when you leave, hachai yitin elibay, the live people will take a lesson to their heart. When you go to a wedding, it's great, it's fun, but then you move on. There's nothing that you take from there, except if you know how to steal a couple of flowers. But when it comes to a funeral, you're going to hear such great values, so many special attributes, that perhaps we could take it to ourselves and try to emulate her, follow in her ways. And the right people for that is the family, friends who knew her for many years, and they could share a different glimpse that maybe not everybody knew her, and we'll take lessons from her. When the Bible tells us about the creation of human beings, God created Adam, and it says, and he blew into him a breath of life. The Hebrew word for breath is the same word that we use for a soul, neshama. And the word in the verse is, and he blew into him nishmas chayim, a breath of life. Every person, every human being, is a combination of a human body and a spiritual soul. Your soul, the essence of a soul, is part of God. And that doesn't die. That lives on. A person's soul is returned to its maker, not because it's not a leased car that you're supposed to return it just the way you got it. You're supposed to return it in a better way that you have gotten it, which is not possible only if it goes into a human being. If we have to try to explain it with a mundane parable, if somebody has a brand new, I'll make you happy, a brand new Corvette engine, sitting on a crate in a warehouse. The price tag is $40,000. Not the best one. Somebody buys it, puts it into a car, drives around the block, says, I'll return it. He's not going to get his $40,000 back. It's used. Even though he only has 1 mile on it, it's used. But the opposite is with a soul. If God's plan was just to have pure souls, then just leave it up there. Why bring it down? Why put it in a human being? The answer is because by putting it in a human being, it will achieve greatness that it can't achieve just by sitting up there. So you're not returning the soul to your maker the way you have gotten it. You return it in a lot better condition and achieves a lot at higher levels that it would have never achieved. The Talmud gives us a parable. There were 2 people that were both handicapped. One was blind and one was missing a leg. And they were sitting one day and discussing, let's start a little business. Call it Ganev Incorporated. Let's start doing some problems and make some money. So the blind guy says, how can I do it? I can't see anything. He says, look, you could walk. I can't walk. Why don't you put me on your shoulders and I'll lead the way? And together they had a little business. They had an LLC, they paid taxes, they were fine. After many years of doing mischief and causing trouble, they get caught. They're put into prison and they come in front of a judge to get sentenced. And just imagine, they're sitting in front of it, they come in front of the judge. One is being pushed in a wheelchair, he's missing a limb, and the other one has a stick to guide his way. And the judge says, there isn't any appropriate punishment that I could give you. The only appropriate punishment I could give is if I put the blind guy on top of him. I'm sorry, I put the one that's missing his leg, put him on top of the blind guy, put them back as one unit. You got to come up now with a punishment that fits the crime. So too, a soul gets rewarded. As we believe, it goes up to heaven and it gets rewarded for all the good deeds it has done. But the soul cannot, there's another award that it needs to receive, but it doesn't make sense to give it to the soul without the body. And it doesn't make sense to give it to the body without the soul. And that's our belief of the resurrection of the dead, and that's part of the prayer that I said before. We believe in Tchias HaMesim, the resurrection of the dead. When Mashiach comes, when Messiah comes, everybody who is buried will come up and will be reunited with their parents, their grandparents, all of their relatives. And that's why we have traditions how we take care after somebody passes away. That's why we bury in the ground. That's why we don't go with new innovations. We do everything as traditional because, and especially in this case, Andrea got a tahara. She was prepared according to the traditional way, and the pine box, everything is according to the tradition. And at the resurrection of the dead, that when Mashiach comes, she'll be reunited and everything will go back just like before. She'll get rewarded for all the good deeds that she did, and her soul comes back to her. That's why we have different laws how to act in the cemetery. We don't eat in the cemetery. We don't act disrespectful because we believe the soul hovers around where the body, because the soul owes gratitude to the body. So now that she is not here, in a physical sense, she's a lot closer to us on a spiritual sense. Her soul has grown tremendously over all these years that she has been in this world. But since the day she passed, she hasn't been able to perform mitzvos, to perform good deeds. It's not possible. But because she leaves over a beautiful legacy, her siblings, her daughters, grandchildren, by leaving over this legacy, and you do every day, you do good deeds, you do mitzvahs. And mitzvahs come in all sizes and all shapes. It's from putting a smile on somebody's face, from not cutting somebody off. I'm not looking at you. Not cutting somebody off on the highway, saying a nice, not responding to somebody who is nasty, to just helping people, giving charity, lighting candles before Shabbos, saying Kaddish. So many good deeds that we don't realize the whole day. You're not living a regular life. You're doing mitzvahs a whole day. If you just put your mind to it, you realize you do so many good deeds all day. Especially for family, because she brought you to this world, and you brought your children to this world. So every action you do has a ripple effect on her, the positive. And there's no negative anyway, so we'll just stick to the positive. Every time you do a mitzvah, not only you get reward, she gets reward. Now, she may have tried not to ask people for favors. She tried to take care of things on her own as much as possible. But now she's not able to do anything without all of us. So all of us, anyone here, and those who are listening, you try to emulate it. You'll hear soon Carter is going to speak, and then her friend Mrs. Fogel is going to speak. You'll hear great things about her, but everybody had a relationship with her. Everybody knew something about her. Try to emulate her. Try to follow in her ways. By doing that, you'll elevate her soul. And every year on the yahrzeit, the day of passing, the anniversary of your passing, although it's a sad day from a physical sense, it's going to be a year since her passing. For her, it's the greatest holiday. It's her Rosh Hashanah. She gets called into the heavenly court, whatever that means. I'm not sure. I was never there. I got close. I took a flight to Israel, but I never got all the way up. She gets called into the heavenly court, and they see, how much have you grown from last year? And that growth all depends on all of us. What are we going to do for her? And as much as you grow, you get into higher levels. So higher levels in Gan Eden, in the Garden of Eden. So the traditional way you see in some synagogues, when somebody has a yard site, they bring pastry and a bottle of schnapps. It's supposed to be bourbon, but unfortunately there's people today that can't handle it, so they have to get scotch, but whatever, and diet soda. But they bring it to the synagogue, and everybody at 8 a.m. is already taking a shot, saying, L'chaim, may the soul have an aliyah, may the soul have an elevation. We can continue her legacy. We could keep her memory alive, keep her alive in that sense, just by doing what's right and having her in mind, keeping her in mind. Now, hopefully this brings a little bit of comfort, although you have lost your mother, your sister, grandmother, and friends, but you realize that this is only a chapter. We don't understand why, and we don't understand why people but we question sometimes towards the end. And we have it a little bit wrong because we are sad, which makes sense. We're sad that she has passed on. But when a baby is born, when she was born, everybody was excited. There was flowers and balloons and there was parties. And if you think about it, I had a great-grandfather, grew up in New York, and in 1920 took a boat. It took him 3 weeks to get to Israel. He went to study in yeshiva. Everybody came to say goodbye to him. But when he arrived in Haifa at the port, it was 3:30 in the morning. Nobody was there to wait for him. And it should be backwards, because when a person leaves, goes on into the water, you don't know what's going to happen to them. You don't know if there's going to be people who are going to come on the boat and try to take it over. You don't know if something's going to happen to the boat. Unfortunately, there's been stories. But when somebody arrives, they made it safe, it's a time to celebrate. And really, when a baby is born, we're all excited, but we don't know how this baby is going to turn out. We don't know if they're going to live a life to its fullest, if they're going to make an impact in the world, they're going to make an impact on other people, live a good life. But when they pass and you look and you say, well, she really made it. She did live a good life. She did influence others. She made this world a better world. This world, when she leaves this world, it's a better world. It's really something to celebrate and to cherish and say, that's the kind of lifestyle I want to live. So hopefully this brings comfort as well, as the family has gone through another tragedy a couple weeks ago, as her grandson passed on, Cole, and didn't have the proper time to mourn, as the family was busy making sure that Andrea is going to be taken care of. But now that she's being put to rest, Cole is also going to be put to rest. And then hopefully this could start the mourning process, as Cole leaves over great memories. What a wonderful son he was. What a wonderful nephew he was. And although we question, although we don't understand, the Medrash tells us, that's the oral law, that when God gave every angel their job, when he created the world, he gave every angel their job. He told the angel of death, and your job is going to be to bring back the souls, kill people. And that angel said, no. I'll wash the toilets, but not that. And God said, why? He said, because everybody's going to blame me. They're going to talk nasty about me. He says, one thing I can tell you. When a person passes away, they're never going to blame you. They're never going to blame that it was time, the angel of death. They can always have another reason, but that's not always the reason. The reason why a person passes away, we have to believe, and hopefully this helps us mourn it The reason a person passes away is because they have achieved their goal. Every person is here in this world to accomplish a mission. And when you accomplish your mission, it's safer to go home. I know people that have gone to the casino with $2,000 in their pocket, hit 58,000, but nobody told them it's time to leave. And they left owing somebody money. When a person accomplishes his mission, and we don't know why we're here, we do believe in Gilgul, that our soul comes back to achieve its goal. And sometimes we're here for another term, sometimes a second time, a third time. But hopefully, now that we could start the mourning process, hopefully this will bring comfort, not only for the passing of Andrea, but for Cole and for all of those who are mourning him. May their soul rest in paradise. It's just traditionally, before I give over to Carter, traditionally we like to ask forgiveness, especially we're right before Rosh Hashanah, which anyway is the time that we ask for forgiveness. We ask forgiveness because it's very difficult to live a life, and people shouldn't think that maybe, and sometimes people, even though you don't have intentions to hurt somebody, sometimes people take it the wrong way. So we like to ask everybody to please forgive her. If God forbid you had something against her, if you felt that she did something that wasn't up to what you're liking, please forgive her. As well as Andrea, we ask you to forgive everybody else. As she goes up to the heavenly court, we don't need any speed bumps. We don't need to cause any issues. Let her go as easy as possible. I'd like to ask Carter to come up and share some words.
Mimi was the most amazing mother and grandmother to all of us. From the times we were little, of her teaching us how to make applesauce, to us growing up and her telling us we gotta clean up our lawn, we gotta mow our lawn. She always showed us the most love, no matter what. Mimi was the only person who'd be wearing a classy fur coat one second and driving her Cadillac to the next second. She's in the mud, she's fishing, she's riding four-wheelers, she's on the Kubota, she's doing something in the yard. In the winters, Mimi would be out in her fur coat, feeding the birds, feeding the deer, feeding any animal she could feed, whatever she could do. Whenever we would go to Mimi's, we'd be so excited to hang out and eat her amazing prime rib, which we did. But afterwards, or before, or somewhere in between, she'd make us go pick up sticks, do something to help her out, pick up our weight around there. All 30 acres of it. I remember one time painting the barn, and the whole time she was just looking at us, telling us, "You're doing it wrong. You gotta do this right." Because Mimi wanted everything perfect, especially around her house, her car, everything. She wanted everything to be perfect. Mimi was a badass. Always on a tractor, even when she was told not to. One time, my older brother was telling me, he went over there, she just got out of a nursing home or something, and she was trying to mow the lawn because he didn't go over there and do it. And he was like, "Mimi, you're not allowed to be on the tractor." And she wasn't on a little tractor, she was on the big Power King, trying to mow the lawn. She wouldn't let anything hold her back. Mimi taught us all how to have a great work ethic, love, treat people the right way, and have fun all at the same time. Mimi was the most kind, generous, and funny grandmother, and will be deeply missed every day. We hope you're riding the biggest Kubota, sipping on a Cosmo with Cole in the passenger seat, Mimi. Love you. XOXO.
Good afternoon. My name is Karen Fogel. Please call me Fogel. That's what the entire Davis family called me growing up. I'm here to celebrate Andrea Mimi's life. First to Karen and Kim, dear daughters. Brooke, Matthew, Danielle Carter, Cole and Kyle, incredible grandchildren. Ronnie, Kathy, Susie, dear sister and brother, my deepest condolences, and hello, Rabbi. I'm most humbled by being asked to speak about my dearest friend of 60 years, Andrea. I speak for myself and 5 other friends. Karen, Cheryl, Jill, Nicole, and Judy. I met Andy at the age of 12 and knew that there was something about her personality that would make us the best of friends for a lifetime. Andy grew up on Washington Boulevard in a house with blue awnings. It was a beauty. In that house lived Dave, Lil, Gagi, to most of us, Ronnie and Susie. The house was spotless. Lil was a great mom, homemaker, and always welcomed Andy's friends into her home. When I was there, which was often, God would say, "Fogel, are you back again? Don't eat all the bakery." Bakery was from Huff. Andy was an impeccable dresser. Her clothes always in style, shoes always clean, and not a hair out of place. She lived that way her whole life. She learned from Gagi how to keep a beautiful home, cook great food, raise wonderful children, know how to have a good time. She learned from Dave how to be humble and know that the fewer words you say, the better. We all know about the junkyard, a favorite place of anybody that knew Dave. Andy was a loyal friend. She was not one for punctuality, but always showed up, rain or shine. Her obsession with Huff Bakery was well known to all of us. On our 50th birthday, the seven went to Las Vegas. We came from far and wide, and Andy brought a Huff Bakery across country for the celebration. She told the flight attendant that the cake had to be in one piece when she arrived. Flight attendant wanted to know where she could put it. Andy told her the cockpit. That's where the cake was. Fiercely loyal, would go to any lengths to help her children, Karen and Kim, and the 6 grandchildren were the apple of her eye. Riding the Kubota, running on the property in Richfield, then having a great meal with their Mimi. Who do you know that had a burn pile? Who? Every morning she would call me and tell me what was in the cage that she bagged. Who do you know that raised swans? Who? And took care of them the way that she did. Standing guard, waiting for a coyote to come by with a weapon on her lap. No one was going to harm her beautiful swans. Who do you know that could make the best chicken soup? Who? And made sure that her family was together for holidays. Who do you know that had the best children and great children? Who? Andy did. Who do you know that kept a sense of humor until the very end? Andy did. You are her legacy, Karen and Kim, Brooke, Matthew, Danielle, Carter, Kyle. She lives on through you, with you forever. Her dreams are now your dreams. Her hopes are now your hopes. Her giving spirit lives on through each and every one of you. Our dear Cole is with Mimi now. She will comfort him, love him, take care of him, and guide him through their journey together. Neither is alone. As a matter of fact, they're having Dunkin' Donuts and coffee with milk only. Please.
6 sugars.
Yeah. Cole was always special to her. Everyone should have an Andy in their life to grow up with, to live life with, to take care of, and to grow old together. Through thick and thin, we love you. The 6.
At this point, we're going to lower the casket, and we'll all have an opportunity to fulfill the mitzvah of helping, covering the grave. It's called Chesed Shel Emes, truth of the kindness of truth, because you're doing it just for the mitzvah. You're not getting any favors back.